Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I am your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 90 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here is where we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing, highlighting that transformational moment that changed our lives and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also join our Facebook group at Life Transformation Radio Community and never miss an episode by subscribing on your favorite podcast platform. Life Transformation Radio can be heard on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Overcast, CastBox, Google Podcasts, Pandora, or listen to our live show on blogtalkradio.com/Life Transformation Radio. You can also subscribe to us on our YouTube channel at Life Transformation Radio. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, amazing people impacting the world around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests during our live broadcast, Tuesday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time, go ahead and give us a call at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And with that, please help me welcome to the show my guest for today, Lindy Lewis. Lindy, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Well, hello, Sean. Thank you so much for having me as a guest.
I'm super pumped to have you on the show.
Yeah.
I know that these types of episodes that I've had is really popular with my audience. A friend of mine named Christy Whitman was on the show, and she wrote a book called Taming Your Alpha Bitch, and it went through the roof. I have a very wide and expansive female woman audience, and I know that shows like this, like they really, really dig and get into. So I'm super excited to have you on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. I love the opportunity to get my message out there and just, all of these beautiful type A women out there and even the alpha males. It's just this alpha energetic, that I tend to address with my book series and in the workshops that I do.
Yeah, absolutely. I checked out your website. I looked at what you were doing, all of the workshops and the products you offer, and so good. So everybody right now, go to Lindy, Lindy, Lewis, Lewis, LindyLewis.com, and you can check out her books, her workshops, what she's up to, blogs and content and all kinds of stuff right there on her website. And her Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn is right there in the show notes as well. Click on those, send her a friend request, and then let her know that you listened to this episode of Life Transformation Radio. This title of the show, I'm super pumped, is Inspiring Grace as an Alpha-holic with author and speaker Lindy Lewis. She's a recovering, authentic alpha female. She shares her humbling blocks and pivotal collection of tips and tools to live an empowered and full color life. She does this through her speaking, books, and workshops, as well as her coaching and retreats for the Alpha-preneur ready to create from their passion and purpose. Autoimmune, single parenting 3 small children, and authoring 3 books on the Alpha Epidemic inspires health and grace as a lifestyle. Lindy, I'm super excited to talk about this because I think this is a really, really deep topic that we can go into. And I know for me, being in the military, there's a lot of alpha male inside me. And I know that a lot of people that I served with have the same complex. But even more so, a lot of people that were drill instructors with me are type A personalities. They're over the top, and they can be a handful sometimes. But I gotta know,
we tend to be.
For you, yep, I gotta know for you, what is your why? Why do you do what you do?
To be honest, I have several whys, but I think the main one is I like to call it kind of the 500-year plan. And it's just, we've got all of these beautiful young children that we are raising up to be young alphas. And we're doing this not just by, of course, we're going to have that personality naturally, right? So the personality, you either are kind of more wound tight, a little more amped, a little more ramped, a little more, defined by the action. But the challenge is, these kids that we're turning out, I mean, now we've got all this conditioning through schooling and through getting into the right school, the right place, the right boyfriend, the right life. And I'm wanting, what's happening in that process, because I actually was that kid, did everything the right way, but I never had my own sense of value. And in that process, we can't get these kids connected to their own passions and purpose, and they're just continuing to be defined by the external values that are put on it.
Oh yeah, I think as parents, if you're strong-willed, they call it, you're forcefully telling your kids, like, this is what you need to do. You need to do this. You need to get in sports. You need to get into college. You need to do, and you're directing your child on what to do. And I think I've taken a different approach because I understand what was done for me, and the push and the push and the push and the push. And when we tend to push, we get some pushback. What I've done for my kids is follow your passions and follow your creativity. I believe that if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. What I've told, especially my 6-year-old, my 6-year-old is very boisterous in a way, but man, does she have an amazing personality. So fun-loving. She's respectful of adults, which is great. I taught her that very well. But man, when she gets into games, she gets competitive. I love it. When she gets around her friends, and she can pick out the weak ones, and she goes after them, like in soccer or whatever sport she's playing, or I've seen her help out some people that were a little weaker than her, which I think is great, but she commands the conversation. She commands the relationships with her friends, and she's 6, almost 7. She'll be 7 in April. And I keep telling her, I'm like, you're going to do something amazing in this world that's going to change humanity. I don't know what it is. Maybe you'll become the first female president. I have no idea. But I know that you are going to do something amazing. And she's just like, well, let's see. Let's see what happens. So
I love it. Yeah, at 6 years old, that's great. Well, and see, that's the great thing is she's already, and sports set us up to really feed that alpha. And that alpha energy is fantastic, right? She's the one who wrote the books, put the workshops together, that continues to speak and to perform. But the other why is it's very hard. The body can't sustain it. So I live with MS. I've had multiple sclerosis in the body for, 15 years now probably. And your body is a self-healing mechanism. It is an organism that heals itself, but we have to offer it those, the environment to do some of that healing. And when you're in alpha drive, as I call it in one of my books, you cannot, your body is constantly on. It's guarded, it's tight, it's holding, it's that fight or flight, freeze, it's on. And that's a great thing. We need to do it, but then we need to put it into this place of reset, restore, renew. And that is what I try to, bring forward with this type A energy, is just to encourage them for longevity, for health, for better relationships in partnership, also parenting, and even just work. I mean, it doesn't feel good sometimes to be on the other side of an alpha. So when you can really try to temper her, tame her, as your friend Christy uses, it's that same concept. Then your body will do all of these, it will do all this miraculous healing and keep you in a state of balance. And that's what I like to call in book 3. I talk about the alchemy of the alpha. And I think that that's the thing we're missing. I think we're so driven that we miss this opportunity to heal and maybe be a little soft. And in those softer moments, you can snuggle up with your kid. You can play a card game with your spouse, or some of those softer moments that sound, not so sexy, for lack of a better word. Like really, but yet they have that really real soft, rich connection. So that's a long-winded why, but that kind of brings it back to your why.
No, it's good. I think it's great. It kind of speaks to, you need to know yourself.
Absolutely.
You need to understand a lot. As alphas, I've had to learn painfully, and I love how you call them humbling blocks. Love that.
I talk about
wow, that's amazing. I think that should be a book in itself, right? The humbling blocks of life.
Yeah. Well, the disease, raising
so
a dyslexic kid, those are all the ones I talk about in my book series. We all have them, but it's a matter of owning them, and what can I learn from them? How can I be a better person? How can I optimize my health through this process? And that's what I feel like I've really been able to do with the autoimmune that I share in this body.
Yeah. I just
keep
thinking about emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence, definitely, because you've already identified, like, I know how I am. It's not sustainable. I understand that, and I realize that, and you deal with it. You make changes, but I think a lot of people, I've known some people that will walk into a room at a party or wherever, at their job or whatever. They just walk into a room and they just, they're there.
Take over.
It's announced. I'm here. Like you just,
they just
they're
take
there.
Over.
And it drains the energy out of people.
But Sean, why do you think they do? This would be a fun conversation to have. Why do you think that is? I'll tell you my theory, of course, and again, it's the impetus of my books. But I'm curious, do you know what I mean? Like, why is that?
Yep. Number one reason that I think it is because they did not live this way, and they got inspired, or they got empowered, or something happened to them where they said, I'm not living under a rock no more. I'm not living under the thumb of somebody no more. They were abused or for whatever reason, and they decided that I'm going to live life to the fullest. And because they were the bullied person, or the person who never spoke up, or they missed opportunity, they just got sick of being sick. They just got sick of being treated like crap. They got sick of life walking all over them and people walking all over them, and they said, no more. And they took a stand, and they closed off, and now they're substituting the boisterous, the hey, here I am, hey world attitude, the alpha attitude, and they're compensating for something that they never had. That's one theory. My other theory is that these are the people that have an extension. What's the word for it? They have an excess of appreciation for life and beauty. Maybe they had a cancer scare, and they almost died in a car accident, or for whatever reason. But they just I got one life. It's like that YOLO. Anybody who remembers 20 years ago where they're like, YOLO, right? People doing dumb stuff, but they were saying YOLO, right? You only got one life.
Right.
So they said, what? YOLO. And they just go full out. They live and play and work and love and act full. It takes away from other people's energy and is looked down on sometimes as this person's, overzealous, or this person's very boisterous, or this person's over the top, or this person's, whatever. So I think it comes from a place of scarcity, I guess you could say, for the first one, or it comes from a place of, I just love life so much, and I'm in a happy place that I want to share it with other people. So I think it's both sides of the coin.
I think those are really great great responses, and I just find that so curious. And again, this is my expertise. This is what I've done research on for a good 15 years, as well as worked with several alphas. But one of the things that I have really found through my work, that it truly has to do with this personality that is externally valued. They found all of their accolades, the appreciation, all of the stuff coming in externally feeds that spirit, feeds that alpha drive, as I call it. And, it allows them to continue to just, keep producing and going. And that, again, she's the one who had to, I refer to myself actually oftentimes in the book series in third person, because I think that is almost sometimes easier. But she's the one who needs to be out there and to amp up and to perform. But then, the challenge is learning to sit with yourself and your own thoughts and just be soft and be okay doing nothing, recognizing that less can be more. Because in that space, you don't have to be everything to everybody all the time. You can just take a moment and then somehow find that value intrinsically. And that's what the book series and everything that I work toward promotes.
Gotcha. Okay.
Does that make sense?
Fair enough. Yeah, definitely.
Well, it's a great conversation because it's an emerging topic, especially now that we've had so many of those people out there who have been that type A, gotten all of their value from the paychecks, the overachieving children, the right school, whatever. They've been that, and it's a great place to be. But now everybody's kind of, especially after COVID, trying to reinvent, and how do they come out again with a sense of purpose and passion.
Very true. I know a lot of people who during the lockdown, they said, I'm going to get physically fit, and I'm going to make some life changes, and I'm going to get my account, built up, or I'm going to build a budget, I'm going to, whatever. Or a lot of people that we've worked with, they've launched podcasts, they've launched books. They said, okay, I'm going to be quiet no more. I'm going to be somebody who's going to get my message out, somebody who's going to, whatever they're going to do. And I love that. I love that they said, you know what, this is the time. This is the moment. I got to get that book out. I'm at the house. I'm on lockdown. So we've launched a lot of books for people. We've launched a lot of podcasts for people. And they're some of the best ones we've ever had because they're really like, I'm in this thing. And I'm going all in. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, it's so nice in a strange way, this whole pandemic. It's been such a great opportunity because we were really living in a pressure cooker, like that it was just faster and more and bigger and better. And so it gave everybody sort of equal playing ground, socioeconomical, it doesn't matter, creed, race, color, any of that. Nothing mattered. It was a bit of a lottery as to where the COVID impacted communities. So it's kind of a fun opportunity. What, like you say, all of these people coming back saying, you know what, this is maybe an injustice that I want to focus on. So people are really tapping into their purpose and passion, which I think has been fantastic to observe.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree. And we thrived during COVID. We made more money. We worked with more people. I mean, I was actually surprised. I'm like, oh, man, I don't know. Like, we do a lot of speaking. We do a ton of speaking on the road. I don't know. And I'm glad that we didn't put a lot of weight in in-person events and being a platform speaker to where – so, you're a speaker, like, hey, come speak at our event. Awesome. Yeah, it's $5,000. Like, what? Like, you have to pay to speak at this event. Yes. And then you can sell from stage. And it's like platform speakers, pay to play, like all that stuff. Well, if you don't have any events, how are you getting your programs out there now? How are you reaching new audiences? So everything turned to podcasts. Everything turned to live virtual events. But it still wasn't the same. A lot of people weren't buying the same way. Like, habits changed. So then you got to figure out, like, okay, well, what's my next thing? Well, let's dabble in the Facebook ads. Let's dabble in the live videos. Let's dabble in, whatever. People pivoted. They did different things. Some people thrived. Others closed down for good and said, I'm not doing this anymore. I know a couple people that I was like, man, they're really good entrepreneurs, are not entrepreneurs anymore. They stopped everything. They shut everything down. And they just, for mental health reasons, they wanted to just kind of do their own thing and maybe get a job or work with somebody that they were passionate about working with, or, whatever, collaborating with somebody. And they're perfectly cool with that. Some people went back to old jobs because it just turned out that they needed somebody. So I think in times like this is the moment where you have an introspective conversation with yourself.
Exactly.
And figure it out.
Yeah.
And
that
time
is,
to get out of the rat race.
Think,
it really is.
Part of why I decided to go ahead and push this into the world right now, because I've been sitting back living this walk of grace, as I call it, and inspiring grace in a lot of students. I've had, a much experience in working with schools and students, as well as some of the alpha females. But I think that's why I wanted to push this into the world, because really what this whole movement that I'm inventing or moving into the world is, it's about the language we use with ourselves, and as a type A, we tend to be brutal with ourselves. Perfect is here, and the minute you hit that bar, you raise it to the next level of perfection. Like you never quite allow yourself the grace to just, sit with your accomplishments or celebrate, the few things that you feel like you have done well. So that's, I think, as we come out, if we can get this language cleaned up in our head and that, recognize that it's okay to do nothing, or why progress is better than perfection, and just learn to sort of control the conversations in our head and create this sort of language of love that we use with ourselves, and recognize that these humbling blocks are, in fact, great teaching this whole COVID. We're all getting handed one right there. What are we learning through this? How are we going to come out and thrive and be our optimal self? So that's, I think, why this has been such a good time to move this into the world, is to support those people that are reinventing, and it's an insecure place.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's a lot to be said about that. And as to reopen little by little, I think you're going to see people emerge with all new attitudes, and you're going to see them really, kind of like a caterpillar to a butterfly. I think that some people are going to launch themselves, to new heights, and then others won't, and they'll do what they're going to do, and, people go from there. So I think it's going to be interesting this year. I think we're going to learn a lot more about the person, us, our friends, family, people that we know and work with, our colleagues. I think you're going to start to realize, because everything's out in the open now. Everything is out in the open. So I think you're going to start to see a lot more.
Well, and I think all of us truly are starting to, one of the things I write about is that, we're starting to get certain that there is nothing certain. Everything is really uncertain. That's kind of the irony here. So you just got to put your best foot forward every single day. And, again, what I try to do with the language and the ahas throughout the book series is just to get people to really cancel the comparative narrative. That's one of the ahas I write about, is this comparative narrative. So when you're, dipping in somebody else's life to measure yours, it's truly not living your authenticity. It's not, and I use my whole movement is let your color out. In fact, that is my Instagram and social media platform, is all let your color out. And it's this concept of the minute you start to own your humbling blocks, you start to celebrate your quirks, and you just recognize that these are your colors. They make you your unique self.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. When you say humbling blocks, I love that so much. So much growth in that statement. I love it. So we go through a lot of transformations in life, and the older we get, the more we've experienced, and the more things that we thought we knew, but then life happens, and you're like, didn't see that coming, and then we power through and we push through. For you, what would you say, because the show is all about our transformations, what would you say is a transformational moment that happened to you, changed you, and put you on the path to what you're doing today?
Ooh, that's a great question, and there's so many. In fact, that's sort of every one of the ahas have been hard ones. So each one of them, pick any of them from
right.
the books. But one of them, I think, I just, one that comes to mind is, if it's a fight to fit, it's the wrong fit. And that's this concept. This is from book 1, actually. And it was this whole process of when I left corporate America, because the disease had progressed. But I'm like, gosh, I've got to give my body a healthier environment to heal itself. I remember, my friends did in fact change. My social agenda really changed because I started to say, can't make that. I stopped necessarily trying to fit into every function and going from thing to thing to thing to thing. And for an alpha, that's a really insecure place because, again, we tend to have a lot of our value tied up in those invites and being at the right thing at the right time and contributing with our commentary. And so for me, it was really that was one of my humbling walks. I was like, gosh, you know what? Those people, I bless them, love them, but just maybe not my people as I step into this walk of grace. And I choose, I like to talk about grace, living grounded in grace and it being a lifestyle, not just a prayer. Although my journey has, of course, been a very, spirit-guided path. All of these ahas, the humbling walk is all, something I've been informed and listening quietly in that quiet time by myself.
Right.
Instead of beating myself up, I try to be curious and listen to what it is, how I can show up for using my message, my wisdom to encourage and inspire others to maybe soften a little bit and to be more graceful and loving to themselves.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Okay. Well, that leads me to my next point. You said that you were teaching and trying to inspire. So how do you elevate the world? How have you taken your why? How have you taken your transformational moments, packaged them up, and elevate the world around you?
Well, I, of course, in this process, what I put a lot of energy into, I have a nonprofit that I started called Underground Kindness. And I started teaching, and up until COVID, February last year, we were teaching, 50 plus classes a year in public education and in jail, and in some of our transitional homes, teaching them yoga, and I was teaching them these tips and tools because the books are just filled with tips and advice to be good to yourself because our kids, our youngers, aren't typically good to themselves. Oftentimes the language they use is quite brutal with themselves. And I would always, talk to the kids and say, gosh, when you can be good to yourself, you're naturally good to others. You're naturally a little better and more compliant at home. You might be a little more helpful, cheerful, appreciative, grateful when you can use a little kinder language with yourself. So those are all classes we would teach in the schools. These ahas, like even if it's a fight to fit, it's the wrong fit, I would teach that to kids, just teaching them that they can choose their friends. They can step outside their conditioning or what the cultural status quo could be, and they can find their tribe.
I'd like to address this fight to fit. What I'm thinking is fighting to make it happen and it's just not working for you. Maybe it's the wrong fit. However, the alpha in me says, no, I'm passionate about it. Life is just testing me to see how bad I want it. And I'm going to fight even harder. You ever fall into that trap?
Oh, Sean, I love this that you brought that up because I'll tell you, it's this book series, this whole, the alpha female, this trying to inspire grace and get this alpha energy in balance and authentically coming forward. I have that all the time. I'm like, gosh, the books are just, I keep getting this great wisdom, and I keep putting it into a book form, and I keep, inspiring here and where I can. But gosh, here it is for you. The alpha doesn't necessarily, that doesn't draw them in. Do you know what I mean? They don't want to go into recovery because the alpha energy is the rock star. She's the one who's on purpose. She's the one who's, getting things done and, bringing home the bacon too. So that's where it's been so frustrating to me is I'm like, gosh, but again, it's not sustainable for your health. And, people who have had a humbling block are very open to my messaging. But so that's, so I do hear exactly what you're saying. If it's a fight fit, it's the wrong fit, because I'm like, gosh, is this just, I've done it. I've lived through this recovery journey. I will always be alpha. I am type A. I love that personality. And I am living very well with a serious illness in the body because I've learned to temper her and to give herself some rebound time and some reset opportunities. I write about chucking the checklist in the first book. And the second book, I talk about choosing the checklist. So it's weaving new things into your checklist that are supporting your overall health, mind, body, and spirit. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's where I certainly felt it. Yeah, so choosing your checklist is key, and that's I talk about that.
I am a checklist freak.
Yeah, we are. Tend to be. You bet. Yeah, and I think we become that's how our behavior becomes rote. And what I try to do is interrupt that. In fact, in one of the books, I think book 2, I talk about magic in the moment, and I spell magic with a K, and I love it because people want to correct me all the time. But I intentionally did that because it stops that fast brain. It drops you into whoa. Well, I mean, I guess it could be a K, and it stops you from that rote checklist that you're just like blazing on. It interrupts you to sit with the present moment. So it's just a quick little tip and tool that I use to just drop you into the moment, for example, and everybody catches it. They think they catch it. I'm like, no, I really did that, because why can't it be spelled with a K, for example, if you want to be in the present moment, and the present moment is where your power leads, because truly that is all that we have. We only have today.
Yep. Yeah.
And it's just,
very, very true.
Yeah, it allows us not to have our finger out saying, well, this person should do that, or they should do this, or my kids should do that, or, it kind of alleviates the shoulding. It just allows you to just really, celebrate yourself. I mean, you asked for kind of some of those moments. And another one I remember is when I was raising the 3 kids by myself, and I was in the garage, and it was kind of spring, and I'd come through the dark winter, and I'm just, the disease had progressed, and I'm sitting there going, how am I going to raise these kids? I find out one has dyslexia, then I start to learn about the ADHD in my own brain, and I'm just like floundering. But then for a moment, I'm cleaning the garage, and I just took a minute, and I just kind of put a smile on my face, and I thought, wow, I'm doing this. I got this. Look at the body. It's being responsive. And it's just one of those moments in time that, but the minute that alpha starts to celebrate themselves, and, I think you're also a recovering Catholic, or was raised Catholic, and, when we start to celebrate, celebrate ourselves, it's vain, or it's, arrogant. And so it stole a moment of my feeling successful. And I guess that's with this movement, I want us to live in the light, live our highest health, our light self, our heart, our love. That's the place that the game changer, and our world's just craving it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of information out there, and if you do it the right way and you tie into people's emotional responses right now and tie into the conversations that they're having in the shower with themselves, those epiphanies that they're having in the shower, like, you tie into those. It's great marketing, by the way, but you are becoming that person in their darkness, right? I mean, I look at all of the times that I told myself, like, I got to figure this out. Like, man, this is like, you ever been working on something and it just feels like you're messing it up and something else is broken? Like, oh, I got to fix that. Oh, man, that broke. I got to fix that. You're like, you know what? Put the tools down. Put the tools down and just get up and walk away. And then you get up, you walk away, you breathe, you do whatever you got to do, and then you come back, and all of a sudden, you're calmer. And now things are fitting. And now you're not getting mad. And then you're completing the task, whatever the task is. And then you're like, wow, I finished. You know, like, it just says something about that. You know, we can sometimes be our own worst enemies, not in like an alcoholic, rage, drug-addicted way, but in the sense that we get into our own way and we hold ourselves back without even knowing we hold ourselves back because of just our personality types or for whatever reason.
Well, the deprecating thoughts. I mean, so often our language we use with ourselves is just brutal. You know, I think you talk about this in your book. You know, and it's just it's a chance for us to try to be a little more gentle, and then, you know, the language we choose to use with ourselves is pivotal. It's so powerful in you know our health, our mind, our mental health, and then it spirals right into how we are in life with our children, with our spouse. You know, I think as an alpha, oftentimes you really, you know, you mentioned it. It's a very controlling personality, but you tend to usurp the children from unfolding, like, you know, into their choosing. You know, so I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it's just, I think that's the thing. You, as a woman, you know, you can totally emasculate your man. You know, because there's a right way to live, a right car to drive, a right house to have, and let the man, you know, hold the space for him as well. You know, holding space is another thing I really talk about a lot in my books, because that's a pivotal thing I had to learn. Holding space for people to unfold, and not necessarily just have them be who I want them to be. I want them to be who they're here to be, and how can I support them, and how would they support me?
Yeah, absolutely. Before we close the show, I want to do something real quick. I just thought of a question, not really a question, more of a statement, but kind of a question. That's something you just brought up, more in the relationship realm, and you had said, you know, in the relationship with her man. And I said, man, I wonder what it's like with an alpha female and a beta man. Oh my gosh. I wonder if he's like, nah, screw it, take it, I don't care. You know, like, we're doing this. All right, that's cool. Like, I know some people who are super laid back who are like, I'll do whatever. I don't care. And they're like, no, we got to do this. And like, they get like really like pent up frustration because like, dude, make a decision. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I mean, whatever you want to do. You know, like, man, I hate that.
Oh, yeah. And it can be so frustrating when you know, to an alpha, it's like, oh my gosh, then what's it going to be? So we tend to just make the decisions, and you know, we can very easily just insert our own opinion. And then what happens?
My wife and I are both alphas that way.
And again, I think the alpha energy, and that's the thing with, like, when we talked about a fight fit. I mean, that recovering alpha female, it is just a more authentic, rich, balanced human that is, you know, walking down life with a huge, open, compassionate heart. Because I would say alphas tend to be incredibly generous and givers. And they're dreamers. We have this personality full of you know, hope, really. And so, you know, but it does need to be tempered, because it can be too much. And then if you're in that kind of a partnership or in a parenting situation, you start to just control that human that's either you're a parent to or that you're a partner to, and there's no letting them be quirky or colorful, as I call it, because they, you know, there's always a bar to be met, or an expectation, I should say, to be met.
Yep, I agree. Before we close the show, we always do some kind of a takeaway or something to give or whatever. So do you have a message or something that you would like to give the audience as a takeaway? What can we take away from this episode long after we've already put it out onto the airwaves and into the podcatchers, and months from now, some new listeners scrolling through and they scroll to the end? What is your message for the listeners of Life Transformation Radio? Yeah, absolutely. See the alpha. See, can't even just do one.
Of course, I got to squeeze it. I said I'm never going to be the recovered alpha. It's the recovering, always. But hey, so for sure, the easiest, simplest one is the body is so resilient. The body is magic. You have got to trust the body's wisdom to heal itself. So if you're out there struggling with autoimmune, it is so stress-induced. Find ways to ground yourself. Go lay on the earth. Plug into this beautiful ball of nature that it has its own heartbeat and cycles and systems every moment of every day. So that would be something, recognize the huge value of the body's ability to heal. And then the other thing I would really just encourage, through these conversations and ahas that I have written about, I have really come to trust my intuition, and above all, trust that intuition. If there's these little heart whispers that are nagging at you to change careers, to pull your kid out of soccer, to, have the hard conversation in a relationship, find a gentle, come from a grounded place, ground yourself, do some breath work, get soft, and then have this real beautiful heartfelt conversation. But trust your wisdom. That guide inside is pivotal and powerful.
Love it. So good. So good. Where can people buy? Yeah. There you go.
So my books are available, of course, online. We have that black and white version that is just your basic black and white that is available on Amazon.com, LindyLewis.com. We sell the full color. Of course, my thing, as I mentioned, is my Instagram and everything is let your color out. And it's really living, turning your quirks into colors, owning your quirks, celebrating your unique gifts, owning your humbling blocks, turning your drive into this aspect of thrive, from drive to thrive, learning love is your superpower. Those are all this rich ahas. I just launched my Audible as well. So the first book, The Recovering Alpha Female, can be found on Audible. And then we're just doing, sign up for my newsletter where I send out wonderful little quips. All of my stuff is written for the ADHD brain because that is what I have got. And so it's got to catch me quick or I'm out. So, it's just these little, what progress, not perfection, it's okay to do nothing, these little things, and I'll drill in on them. So those are the best ways, books, and then you can sign up if you want to get away from it and learn your recovery space and just come back to sort of the Zen zone. I have a retreat place out in North Idaho that is an opportunity to just go and get the reset, where we do hiking and yoga, and then we make some magical, earth-filled face oils and things where we can plug into earth, because I think so much of our wisdom is right under our feet at all times. So I try to reconnect us with that. So that's it. Go to my website, lindylewis.com, and I would happily send you an email, lindy@letyourcoloroutout.com, and just start the conversation however I can support you.
Love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Absolute honor and privilege to have you. Amazing conversation. Loved our conversation. It was fast-paced, just like I thought it was, but we covered some ground. And we went deep into this alpha personality, touched on a couple things, but I think that people really need to take a deeper dive into what you're doing and learn some emotional intelligence.
Oh, fantastic. Well, thank you, Sean. I so appreciate the opportunity and just really enjoyed our conversation. I find it so enjoyable to talk because I'm still learning, I call it failing forward. In book 3, I talk about failing forward. That's the Alpha-preneur.
Yeah. Absolutely. Again, thank you so much for coming on the show. Absolute honor and privilege. And I wish you the best for the rest of 2021.
All right. Fantastic, Sean. Thank you again.
Thank you. Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around her. If anything's resonated with our conversation today on Life Transformation Radio with Lindy Lewis, please reach out to her. Go to Lindy, Lindy, LindyLewis.com. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, links are right there in the show notes. Click on those, send her a friend request, and let her know that you listened to this episode of Life Transformation Radio. With that, I close the show by saying live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live an amazing life.